Welcome to Everything Life Coaching, exploring the art, science, and business of coaching with your host, Noelle Cordeau, CEO of Lumia. Each week, we dive into cutting-edge coaching trends, interview industry experts, and provide practical insights to help you thrive on your coaching journey. Get ready to expand your coaching toolkit and transform lives, including your own.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life Coaching. Noelle here. And today we are going to continue on with our ICF Core Competency series and get into one of the most often used competencies, and that is listening actively or listens actively, according to the ICF. So, the definition of this competency is that the coach focuses on what the client is and is not saying in order to fully understand what is being communicated by the client in context. And then the secondary outcome here is that that act of listening to really understand someone in context supports client self-expression. Now, this competency has 6 subcategories that we are going to unpack together. But before we do, let's parse through the true role of listening in the coaching conversation. And the ability to listen deeply to our clients and to really hear them is everything in coaching. Think about yourself. How does it feel when someone in your life really takes the time to listen to you deeply for the purpose of understanding you and seeing you fully? I know it feels really validating and wonderful for me. It lets me know that I am cared for. It lets me know that I matter. And then the next question that I have is, how do you know when this happens? For me, the gift of listening and being listened to is one of the most important components of belonging. And this is an essential skill for strengthening mental health and well-being. According to the National Institute of Health, being heard contributes to a sense of belonging. And belonging is not only good and necessary for our society and for our health, but the desire to belong is deeply rooted in human motivation. And it is underpinned by our ancestral origins, and this permeates our thoughts and our feelings and our behaviors. So, in drawing the connection between an experience of belonging and a competency of listening actively, when we listen to our clients in a way that allows them to feel that we truly see, understand, and honor them, it touches a deep aspect of our humanity that allows us to harness motivation and create change in our thoughts, in our feelings, and in our behaviors. You see, listening actively in coaching is so much more than the casual act of listening. It requires deep care and intention, and it lets another human being know that they matter, that their hopes and dreams are important, and that the way that they see and experience the world around them is real and holds vital information that can help them understand how to chart a path forward. So from here, let's dive into our sub-competencies. The first one is that when we are listening actively, the coach considers the client's context, identity, environment, experiences, values, and beliefs to enhance an understanding of what the client is communicating. So I'll run through that list again. We're looking for, and really when we're listening, it's almost a game of verbal scavenger hunt that we're engaging in as coaches to understand the client's context, identity, environment, experiences, values, and beliefs. So, this is one of the reasons why we teach intersectionality at Lumia as part of a coach training program. Here's an example. Several months ago, I had virtual coffee with a colleague that I had met at a training. And I was so impressed with this person that I really wanted them to be a part of our Lumia community. And I asked, had they ever considered a coaching credential? And this human told me that as a person who came from a background of severe economic scarcity, they didn't know if they would be able to mentally overcome the opportunity cost of coach training. I was floored because I saw this person as a larger than life professional, and their relationship to a childhood that was filled with scarcity was completely invisible to me. This person had a PhD, they had an extensive resume, and I never perceived that there could be something so invisible and so powerful that could keep this person from pursuing a professional credential at this stage of their career. And so we talked about the benefit of a coaching credential. We talked about the reality of the time commitment and a couple of different options for scholarship. And I'm hopeful that one day this really gifted person will become a coach and will become a member of our Lumia community because they have so much to offer. And this person's story has really stayed with me as a powerful reminder of the way that assumption can get in the way of clear and authentic understanding, as well as a reminder of the role of listening as vital to learning about and understanding someone's barriers to access. And when we're thinking about barriers to access in coaching, this could be systemic, it could be cognitive distortion, it could be limiting beliefs, it could be tactical, it could be so many things. But until we understand via listening what is really going on, we don't have the full picture. As coaches, we need to remain clear and mindful that differences and barriers are often invisible and they are even more often misunderstood. In the same conversation, this colleague also shared that they were really proud to have spoken publicly for the first time about their experience as a cancer survivor and as a queer person. So, wow, these different aspects of identity that I had the opportunity to hear about gave me an even deeper understanding of this person and an appreciation for this person. And I was able to increase my empathy for how they navigated the world tenfold. So when we are in session with clients, our job as a coach is to get to that deeper cut of understanding of the story of someone else's life. So now the next sub-competency that we have to consider is reflecting or summarizing what the client has communicated in order to ensure that we have the story right, in order to ensure clarity and understanding. When I was in coach training a million years ago, one of the lessons that stood out to me was that when we speak, there is no guarantee that the person on the other end has heard and understood our meaning. When we speak, there is no guarantee that the person on the other end actually heard us or actually knew what we were talking about. And that is true of ourselves. When we speak, we can't actually hear what we say and how we sound. When we speak, we cannot actually hear what we say and how we sound as we say it. So, for both of these reasons, it's really important that we reflect back to the client what they have said or what we have thought that they've said so that the client can hear their own thoughts reflected back, and also so that the client has the opportunity to confirm that you, as the coach, have interpreted their meaning correctly. I've had this go a couple of different ways in session. From time to time, clients have corrected me as what I understood didn't actually match their meaning. When this happens, it's a best practice to repeat again what the client has said and repeat it again, even still, until the client is able to confirm that you, as the coach, have it right. This practice also helps the client to get really clear on what they actually mean and what they actually want someone else to understand. Additionally, I've had experiences when the client hears their innermost thoughts reflected back to them for the first time, and it feels like magic. It can be so powerful to have an insight, an aha moment, or even a deeply expressed need mirrored back to you by your coach. And that brings us to our next competency, which is recognizing the importance of the verbal and nonverbal connection that takes place in the space of coaching. And the coach needs to be skilled in this aspect, which is recognizing and inquiring when there is more to what the client is communicating. And this is both practice and intuition. So think back to a time when you yourself have held back on sharing what you really mean, or have held back from sharing information or thoughts have been just painful or icky to get out, or maybe you've withheld information because you're shy, or maybe you held withheld information because you just didn't want to talk about something or you didn't quite know how to express yourself. Beyond emotion, sometimes we block details from our own story or hold a specific lens based on past experiences. And so, this is where having a coach or a second party to use senses, intuition, or previous knowledge can help a client to expand or shift their thinking. On the part of the coach, this requires deep noticing and truly seeing the client in their full context. A question that we want to ask of ourselves and our clients is, what else is there in the context of the client's life and the coaching conversation? Recently, this came up for me when I was working with a client who was feeling really poorly about themselves in relationship to online dating. And it raised a question for me in terms of my spidey sense. And also, I was drawing on information from past sessions because I knew that this particular client had also been getting really beat up and disappointed by people at work recently. And so, expanding out from the topic at hand, which was online dating, and knowing that my client was just getting beat up at work, I was seeing the client in their whole context. And I was able to connect the dots that outside of the dating environment, my client is a really sensitive person who wants to do right by everyone around them and wants to be seen as fair and competent by the people around them. And so I wondered if taking a look at this whole picture was worthy of consideration. So I asked permission and I shared with my client my thoughts. And I asked if it was possible that the other feelings from work of just being constantly not seen and disappointed, we're showing up and crowding and confusing my client's perceived need to feel a sense of belonging and acceptance from strangers in the world of online dating. It ended up leading to a really great conversation about a general feeling of needing to be liked that my client held. And my client was able to gain awareness around, oh my gosh, I'm asking strangers to validate me in a way that they're not able. And my client was able to begin putting boundaries in place around their own expectations coming from strangers. So, the skill here that we're talking about is really tuning in to notice when there are aspects of the client's story that are not being overtly stated. And part of that is also noticing and exploring energy shifts with your client. And this requires focus, empathy, and trust between the coach and client. So, think to yourself, put yourself in the position of the client. Think about what it feels like if you shift energy really fast, or if you choke back emotion, or if you don't feel like you're able to express yourself safely. What does it feel like for you to notice your own emotions shift? I'm thinking to myself of where it can go in different directions. Either maybe I get like a sinking feeling in my stomach, or I experience shame and I have like that wincing, or maybe it's excitement and happiness. I tend to speed up and go really fast in my thoughts when I get excited about something, and I kind of go into a performance mindset where I want to show or prove or say or do. So these are things that I know about myself. Um, what is it like for you to notice when other people do this? How much do you have to really tune in to notice when somebody else might be experiencing those shifts inside? It's not something that we do in everyday conversation. And so, in the work of coaching, it's important to dig into, well, how does this work? What does it feel like? How do I embody this skill? As a coach, I've had the opportunity to witness a myriad of emotions, from joy to overwhelm, anger, anticipation. Somebody falling in love is one of my favorites, and so much more. Emotions are a big part of the coaching process because they signal to our clients that there is something going on below the surface that is worthy of exploration. And that brings us to our fourth subcategory of listening actively, which is to notice, acknowledge, and explore the client's emotions, energy shifts, nonverbal cues, and other behaviors. So many times, students of coaching will treat emotions and energy shifts like a hot potato because most people are simply not practiced in holding space and handling strong emotions. And that's okay. That's normal. You will gain competency with this as you progress in your coaching career. And additionally, some students of coaching and even young coaches are hesitant to tune into and work with strong emotions because they incorrectly perceive emotions to be associated with the world of therapy. Now, strong emotions do exist in the work of therapy, and they also exist in many other professional spaces, and coaching is one of them. In coaching, strong emotions are indicators. They're like warning signs that signal that something matters to the client, and both coach and client should tune in and pay attention and inquire what this means, what's going on, what's coming up. And the aspect of inquiry is super important because when an emotion surfaces, the way to approach it is with curiosity and permission. Not all emotions are presented the same way. Some people cry when they're angry. Some people will shift emotions very quickly if they're triggered based on old habits. And the only way to really know what's going on for a client is to inquire. And it's very simple. This could look like, hey, I think I'm picking up on something here. What's going on for you? The coaching skills that are needed to work with clients and to work with their emotions are active listening, to hear, and then inquiry, to notice when there's a rumbling undercurrent, to hold space, and then have an unattached curiosity to let the moment pass and then discover what's going on for a client in a given situation. And even taking a long view and saying, okay, well, where else do these emotions show up in a client's life? Moving to subcategory number 5, we are looking at verbal mechanisms to build trust and intimacy within this beautiful process. And that is to integrate the client's words, tone of voice, and body language to determine the full meaning of what is being communicated. When we mirror the language and cadence of the speaker, our client, we can build trust very quickly. So, in coaching, this type of mirroring is not only used to build trust, but it's also used to generate understanding. As I mentioned earlier, when we speak, there is no guarantee that the listener will truly understand our meaning. And so when we mirror and reflect using the client's own language to check for understanding, we're able to gain deeper insight as to what our client thinks and what our client feels. When we are able to generate insight into how our client thinks and feels, we can use this understanding in session with our clients. And we're also able to collect valuable information that will carry over from session to session. And this brings us to the final piece of listening actively, which is to notice trends in the client's behaviors and emotions from session to session to discern themes and patterns. All of us have themes and patterns that compose our lives. And part of the work of coaching is being able to discern those themes and patterns so that we can make conscious decisions about what we want to do differently moving forward. We can't change a pattern or a theme if we're not aware that it exists and are able to discern the impact on our lives. And so when a coach turns their dial to this level of discernment, the coach is able to report out to the client for awareness and consideration. And in this way, coach and client are able to move together in strategic partnership with co-joint awareness and reporting in order to inform decision making. And that's what makes these partnerships so magical and so effective, is when coach and client are both using their intuition and their senses to bring all of the available knowledge to the table for strategic decision making and goal setting. Thanks so much for joining me. This was fun to talk about, and I will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Everything Life Coaching. If today's episode has inspired you to take the next step in your coaching journey, I invite you to explore what Lumia Coach Training has to offer. Our comprehensive coach training program can help you turn your passion and gifts for helping others into a thriving career. Ready to learn more? Book a no-obligation call with our admissions team today. Just visit lumiacoaching.com/everything and click on the Book a Call button. We'd love to hear your story and show you how Lumia can support your coaching goals. And if you're waiting for a sign to take the next step, this is it.